but they are the second and third strongest teams in Korea right now, and that's including SKT, the IEM World Champions. I think they're probably top 4, top 5, maybe not the 6th that they're in by default, having not played, but JinAir and KT have been more impressive than SKT over the course of the season.
Oh, absolutely.
So picks and bans are really exciting here at Kilios. I mean, for me, KT Rolster is all about Fly, and the numbers certainly don't support that. If you look at Fly, he has the lowest DPM, or second lowest, of any mid lane. This guy plays Lulu, this guy plays Lissandra. He hasn't been pulling out the 30+% damage per minute, or 30+% of team's damage that the likes of Faker, the likes of Kuzan even, and a Crown on Samsung have been able to pull off. But when Fly has lane pressure, it's opened up Score to be the carry jungler, to play Graves, to invade. It's just like you looked at CJ, Sky, weak mid laner. They bring in BDD, suddenly Bubbling can do his thing. When Score gets to do his thing, KT Rolster win games, and they win them quick. But if Fly loses lane pressure, if Fly falls behind, we see Score just hold back, farm, and KT's game plan, barring strong late game team fighting, kind of falls apart.
Yeah. Finishing out these bans for JinAir, it's going to be Nautilus, Corki, and Fiora taken away. Lissandra and Poppy so far from KT, so very much the top lane wars here, as we can see Gangplank, the final ban, and I'll tell you what, something that made it through is this Nidalee. I'm sure either of these junglers would love to get their hands on it, but it will be winged. As Trace locks that in for his jungler, they're going to go ahead and snatch this one up, but something else is Kalista has made it through the draft for, I believe, the first time in the last 2 weeks. We might see her come out.
Nidalee taking a higher priority than Kalista. Both Arrow and Pilot are Kalista players. More so Arrow, though. He really is good on this champion. But it was Score in his interview when he won MVP for Nidalee game in that series against Spender, who said, "This champion is overpowered. I think she needs to be nerfed. That's why I played her." Well, didn't get her hands on her. First pick for Winged, and Winged is going to have to do his Peanut impression, his Score impression, and really run the enemy jungle. We conceptualize Nidalee as someone who holds down the enemy jungler, that solo applies pressure in a way that no jungler can respond or emulate. Nidalee is by far the most powerful jungle pick, and a deserved first pick.
Yeah. Now, what do you think about this Graves pick coming in? Because it's not something that we've seen so much recently. Is this going to be a jungle pick for Score, or is that going to go into the top lane for Someday?
Well, if it was JinAir, of course, it would be a flex pick. Someday's played a bit of top Graves in solo queue, but I'm expecting it to be jungle. Score has looked wonderful on the champion. Of course, harkens back to his 80 carry days, the immortal Score. The issue with Graves is that he's a farming jungler. He can only really invade if he has significant lane pressure, so we come back to the Fly story. How can they apply lane pressure in mid with Fly's champion ports mostly been Lissandra, Lux, safe wave clear champions? If we see the blind pick LeBlanc, again, going to be very difficult for KT to apply lane pressure in mid. Not many answers to LeBlanc that can get lane control, but the LeBlanc pick is reverted for now.
Yeah, don't want to show their hand quite just yet for that mid pick. So they will go with the Ashe Alistar for their bot lane. It's a pretty aggressive bot. You can see the Braum hover coming in would be pretty good to use the Unbreakable to block a lot of that harass coming in from the Ashe.
I really don't like these teams going for the likes of Nidalee, Ashe, and then not taking Braum when it's available. Braum can interrupt the globals, can interrupt the poke. Braum is good against poke, and especially the Ashe Arrow. It was available and was not locked in lieu of Alistar. That's a mistake. In my opinion, we're waiting to see what KT decides to go with the draft.
See this long hover over the Zilean. We did see a little bit of this last week as well. Could see it come out again.
Zilean with Poppy is something to be reckoned with, and Fly has played Zilean this season, but with Poppy banned, and you see double 80 carry and a Braum, I don't really know how it's going to work. So Varus, I think, makes a lot more sense.
So going for a triple 80 carry threat here with Graves, Varus, and Kalista.
Surprising to see Fly not take Lulu when it's available. Would have been magic damage, line wave clear, but I'm interested to see where they want to go with their last, but they're leaving the counter pick for Someday, even though he's been struggling to have the same impact that he did in 2015. Last time we saw these two teams face in Game 2, we saw the debut of two picks in Champions. It was Top Rammus and Jungle Rumble.
Yep.
Outside chance that we see at least one of those this game.
That's on cue, the hover over this Rammus, which could be locked in.
Be for JinAir.
Yeah, be a pretty tanky front line here between the Rammus and the Alistar.
When you see 380 carries and you don't want to play Malphite, you pick Rammus, apparently.
Now we just need a Nautilus mid.
Well, too late for that. Well, I guess we could see it turn out, but realistically, it's going to be something to apply lane pressure.
Yep. So we'll be the LeBlanc here for Kuzan.
And KT have put all their eggs in poke. Triple AD, good siege between the three of those. They need something like the Trundle for both disengage and to deal with the super tank in the top lane. Both Rammus and Alistar are great targets for the Trundle ultimate. The laning phase is just fine from a Trundle perspective. You'll get a swift push on. Surprised to see KT go all in with the AD carries though. Literally no magic damage if we see the Trundle locked in.
Yeah, this is quite scary for them. The very last Whisper dependent the later this game goes. They need something to balance out, and right now as far as AP tops goes, this Lulu might be the way that KT has to go so they don't entirely shoehorn themselves into an all AD comp.
I just don't know if Lulu rescues this comp because it's going to be Braum in the front line with the wild growth, I guess. You're not going to have really an aggressive use of wild growth. I mean, Score potentially could get tanky on the Graves, but no initiation. Completely, a lot of disengage, but this is a peculiar one from KT.
Yeah, really liking the composition from JinAir a lot more. There's more pick potential. There's also a good amount of poke there with the Middle East Spears. Ashe, of course, can create picks into the headbutt pulverize with Alistar. LeBlanc onto the back lines trying to blow up one of these 380 carries that she has available to her. Not to mention the taunt from Rammus. There just seems like so much more potential from this composition from JinAir to layer CC and just take out the members of KT.
We just watched a series where Kongdoo Monster played a very similar comp to KT's comp here and missed their timings and could do nothing. That could still happen, but KT are a much better team than Kongdoo. And there is a world where Braum blocks everything, is the frontline they need, and they can disengage from fights. They take objectives, then back away. But fighting for Dragon, which has honestly been the win condition for KT reliably this season, is very difficult to put off with a comp like this where basically everyone from JinAir can flank because there's so many squishies on the side of KT.
Yeah. Well, if Score can get a lead on this Graves, he might be able to spiral the game out of control in favor of KT. Let's just hope that he doesn't do what we saw in that last game, get a lead, and then decide to start building Devourer 15 minutes.
We're not going to see Devourer Graves. It's okay. You can breathe easy here, Achilles.
I really don't want to see Devourer Graves.
0% chance.
All right. We'll see. We'll see. You
0%
never know.
chance.
It is Champions. Sometimes they will do things to confuse you, but we'll find out for sure when we get onto the Rift. It's going to happen in just a few seconds. Game 1, JinAir versus KT Rolster. Let's begin.
Everybody wants to rule the world. There's a room where the light won't find you. Holding hands.
All right, we are on the Rift here for Game 1. More fancy pants camera angles coming at you, showing off the Rift. And
Getting some vertigo over here.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Okay, we're back.
that's good. Just don't
Breathe in,
don't
Papa,
puke
breathe
on the
in.
desk, please.
I'm all right. I think I'm all right.
All right, good. I'm glad we conquered the vertigo for you. And here, though, pretty even between the audience. I think the votes went very slightly to KT Rolster.
Two legacy teams. Obviously, KT having a longer history than JinAir, but
The
still,
audience, the audience might be backing them, but I think that the composition from JinAir has a little bit more potential.
But there's always the snowball factor, and
This is true.
the issue I see for KT is that if we did see standard lanes, which we probably won't, it looks like we might actually see standard lanes, but the oceanic meta I love to talk about with the duo lanes in top. But if we do see standard lanes, if we conceptualize how it comes together, Lulu definitely going to out-pressure Rammus. Range versus melee, wave clear versus no wave clear until ultimate comes in for Rammus. Then you look at the bot lane. It's Kindred Braum. Sorry, it's Callista Braum, who 2v2 will definitely beat Ashe Alistar pre-6. So there's lane pressure in top, there's lane pressure in bot. Big issue is that your mid lane is Varus versus LeBlanc. So we talked about, can Fly have the lane pressure to allow Score to do his thing? To me, if Winged can create pressure around the map, if he can get his counter jungle, if he can snowball some of these disadvantageous matchups, he can win the game, because then KT will be playing from behind, they won't hit their timings, and it'll just be like Kongdoo Monster in game 2. However, if Score can get ahead, if somehow Fly can apply that lane pressure with multiple winning waves, there is snowball potential for KT. But it's all about hitting those timings. Speaking of timings.
Yeah, we can see Jay getting aggressed on here in the top side. Not going to be able to proc those concussive blows, but still takes a good amount of damage. But he is Alistar with a Relic Shield, so he should be able to sustain up here in just a little bit. But good aggression coming out from KT, something that they need to do early on to try to get that lead in Snowball, like you said.
I think KT have objectively the strongest duo matchup right now in Kalista Braum. I think this duo warps the game in multiple different ways. You know, just talking about, obviously, concussive blows and Kalista's passive, there's a lot of synergy. But what I really look at is, we're in a world where lane swaps are super unpredictable in the early game. You can't get the deep vision down. It's not the 2015 meta of lane swaps. There's some element of risk when you enter lane late. When you're Kalista Braum, you can just sit in a bush, and if the enemy team face checks you, you're dead. That's what Braum provides solo, but Kalista really capitalized on. As you were about to say, we've seen it already this season a few times. The fact that you have to be so careful in the level 1 against Kalista Braum, both defensively and offensively, makes it, to me, the strongest duo possible.
Ooh, look at the Score and Wing gonna find each other in the river. Skull Crab down to half HP. Score with full mana should be able to just go ahead and take this one. Javelin comes in, but all too late. Not going to hit, so it gets taken away by Score. Good roam up there as he was looking for Wings near that blue buff. So no fight gonna come of it, but just one more minion taken by him. Now invading in near these wolves. Don't think he's gonna get spotted out though. It's gonna be the Wolf Spirit going over, and that's gonna be Wing finding out that his Gromp is being taken away.
Good to see Score going for the pressure game. He's trying to start the snowball that KT need with the comp they have. Fly does have ranged auto and just is able to push down waves this early and doesn't have kill pressure yet from Kuzan, so had the wave pushed up. You saw Hachani was cheating out of top lane, so would have responded first, so playing around the pressure so far as Score.
Yep, Shay body blocking these Qs from Braum. Pilot should be, he's going to be down a minion after he finishes off this wave, so Arrow with the slightest of leads in that matchup in the bot, but right now, no wards here for Someday. Looks like Wing not quite going to go for the gank just yet, starting up this Scuttle Crab on the bottom side of the map, and here comes Score again. Let's see if he just takes another Scuttle Crab.
Score doesn't have smite yet, both junglers getting smite at the same time.
We're going to have a little bit of a skirmish. Score does a good amount of damage. You need these javelins to land from Winged.
It's fun watching two dueling junglers, both worried about lanes responding at the same time.
Javelins go through. Winged has to let his mana regen.
Hey!
It's gonna get taken away by Score. Nice smite there.
Veteran smite.
Yeah. Taking that one away from Winged. So a bit of lost time and no gain here for this Nidalee.
Both Scuttle Crabs, there's a significant amount of gold over to Score. Farming jungler is Graves, so important that he picks up that farm.
Yep, and we can see that lead in the bot side. Trace really suffering at the hands of Someday, who has just such an advantage with that ranged mage that is Lulu.
And if you just farm the jungler's Wing, basically, if Score and the lanes create enough pressure that Winged is relegated to power farming his jungle, and this is Nidalee, who farms faster than anyone with both her movement speed, mobility, and clear. If you're swapping farm on Score, farm on Winged, and no lanes are falling behind because of it, that's a win to KT, because it should be Nidalee doing what Peanut does all season, having her way with the enemy jungle, and so far it's actually been Score that's been winning these skirmishes, and I call them skirmishes in inverted commas because they've been fighting over things as simple as clearing the Rift the Rift Scup.
You can see Trace had to use that teleport coming back from base just to try to equalize on CS. Someday will answer that. He's going to have a nice amount of sustain now with that Catalyst of the Protector coming in. So 40 to 22, Trace having one hell of a time. The No Magic Mantle going to alleviate a little bit of that damage that he's taking. So you can see that Someday is really laying it on thick.
Small thing that we didn't note during the Keystone Masters is that both Pilot and Arrow are running Fervor of Battle.
Yep.
I understand it on Kalista, has excellent trades, itemizes first into lifesteal through the Blade of the Ruin King anyway. But Pilot taking Fervor, on the one hand, obviously when his Q is up, he's doing immense extra physical damage with that mastery, but to me it seems a risk. We saw double Warlords in every game in Series 1, but no Warlords on Ashe is risky to me.
Yep. A little bit of an interesting decision there by Pilot. We'll see if it pays off for him.
Says he doesn't want to fight. Says he wanted to get a lane swap off. Didn't get that.
They did not get that. Trace, though, is just sitting in this brush, waiting for the wave to come up so he can just try to get some of the CS.
Doubled already by Someday, but just a reality of the matchup. And with Nidalee, Trace would have thought this matchup would go better just because of the pressure she provides, but so far it's been score out pressuring, so Trace in a pretty significant CS hole.
Yep. And winged over that wall into the Dragon Pit, just going to re-encounter score. No Scuttle Crab to tussle over this time. Trace using that ultimate just to clear out that wave and try to get as much of that CS as he can. Still takes a bit of damage here from Someday, who's just out pressuring him constantly. We can see that 23 CS discrepancy coming through as Someday just has such a strong lead.
Definitely, this is reality. But Rammus, the one thing he can do is with Powerball, pre-home guards, pre-20 minutes, can leave lane reliably as often as he wants, go pick up something and come back into lane. He doesn't have to stay in lane because he rotates around the map so fast. So whether it's rotating in a lane swap situation or even in standard lanes, if he can just pop the ult, and then instead of having a 5-minute cooldown timer, he basically has a 60-second ult timer, ults a wave, and then can just powerball back to lane. So he does fit in shops that no other champion can really emulate.
Yep. See though, Fly chunking out Kuzan in this mid lane, something we haven't seen too much of. They haven't had too much action going on there. Kuzan does get worked down to half HP. I believe we saw this matchup last week as well. The Varus in the LeBlanc, and Varus came out quite handily on top because he can predict the distortion movements of that LeBlanc. So if Fly is able to do that in this game, he can take a very strong lead here. So far falling very slightly behind in CS. It's about 11 separating them at the moment. You can see he is winning the poke war.
So when we did see this matchup, the point I made was that when it's AP versus AP, you can itemize easily into Abyssal Scepter and not lose out. But otherwise, when you're a mage against Varus, against the physical damage, there's no armor mana regen item. So what do you build? Kuzan's actually taken that to heart. He's gone back, examined it. He's actually rushing Rod of Ages first as the LeBlanc just to give him some sustain and not go away from an ideal item path, just because if he goes for Melanonomicon, the most aggressive option, or Frost Queen's Claim, every time that Q hits, he basically takes half his health at level 9. With Rod of Ages, at least you'll have a bit of sustain from the Catalyst, but crucially, a bigger health pool to allow him to take one bad trade and still go for the all-in.
Yep.
First time we're seeing Rod of Ages LeBlanc this season.
Yeah, well, we can see Fly is optimizing for his lane. Tier has already been completed. Now he's just a little ways away from getting that Hex Drinker. So that Magic Resist Shield is going to be very handy for him if he gets all in by Kuzan. Wing, though, getting found out in his own jungle. Going to have to jump over the wall here. Score can follow with the dash. Has the red buff. The ultimate going to go wide, though. Does not land. And now with that Javelin landing, forces the flash out from Score. So double flash down from both junglers.
Fly is applying so much lane pressure. Difference between Varus level 1 and 3 and Varus level 9, or level 7, I guess, for the 4th point in his Q. You get that short cooldown with blue buff. If JinAir had found a way to hold back blue buff, you can't play like this if you Fly.
Yeah, we can see that lands yet again. The piercing arrow is just flying straight and true. By doing a very good job of landing these. Still down in CS, so Kuzan making the best out of this bad situation as far as trading goes.
Still 10 CS up because of those early levels. It's fun to watch matchups evolve. The old matchup that everyone knew about was Irelia matchups, where it's like, all right, level 7, level 9, Irelia will start winning. Vladimir, level 9, he'll start winning. Varus is pretty much the same. Levels 1 to 5, okay, he's a ranged auto attacker, but if there's any champion that can gap close like a LeBlanc, has to hang back, has a much higher cooldown on his wave clear. But once you hit level 9, he's basically Lulu from off the screen in line wave clear. And if he gets tier with his high mana costs and the blue buff especially, there's just really little room to trade because you can't even see your enemy to trade with.
Wing, though, waiting in this brush up top. Don't think he's been spotted out by any wards.
Kuzan, Metal Gear Kuzan.
Yeah, he's trying to run the gauntlet. Can he make it through?
He did it.
Actually does. That was really good maneuvering there. The other one coming into the brush. Kuzan makes it to the top lane. But it's all for naught, so fancy footwork aside, not going to be able to find any kind of engage in that top side. His Winged also had to back off. So a little bit of waste of time. That's going to allow Fly to try to equalize this CS in the mid lane.
Oh, that was great. Reminded me of High back at Worlds 2014.
Or was it, I think it was Bengi the one time where he navigated through the enemy jungle as Nunu.
Always fun.
Yeah, nice little cheeky maneuvering to get through there unseen. You can see the onslaught from KT just not relenting as they just keep trying to pressure out on these lanes and poke as much as humanly possible.
Italy's
so far,
been really well held. That's the thing.
Yeah.
The score's doing whatever he wants, and mid lane has no pressure. Top lane's close to Braum, so obviously has all the pressure. And Rammus is always out of lane. Chip damage on turrets and inhibitors is what you have to get going. His pilot's sending an ult.
and Jenny Crystal Air comes through, but Score just going to be able to walk right past it. Does not get caught. So it's going to be a cooldown popped here for JinAir.
So KT have double pink ward on the bottom side of the map and a LeBlanc that can't stand in lane with the Varus because of the lack of jungle pressure. KT need to take either a turret, the dragon, or ideally both. The dragon's the safer objective, but double AD carry. They're definitely poking down this turret.
Yeah, they should be able to take it right here off of this push. So first tower falling at 13 minutes just about. That's going to be the first real gold lead that we're seeing here in favor of KT. So far, it's just been the lead that's been accrued because of Sunday's lead over top of Trace in that top laner matchup. 122 to 85 CS. And KT, that tower down, still playing quite aggressively going in here, but Score gonna get caught out, does not have that flash available, gets taunted up. Trace is tanking the majority of his damage. He dashes away, throws a good amount of damage onto Wing. The javelin comes through, can Kuzan finish him off? No, he gets polymorph, but he actually does go down in the end from the ignite. Now they turn on to Fly, who has to flash over the wall into the Baron pit. Can they follow? He gets chained up, Kuzan goes in deep, Trace is there as well, flashes in, and now he is stuck with nowhere to go. 3 members of KT here to lock him up. Can he make it out of here alive? Looks like he might just be able to. With a miraculous play there.
Trace with a very sheepish grin on his face. He did not need to flash there.
Yeah, that was really aggressive by him with little follow-up whatsoever. Kuzan, of course, all spells on cooldown, could not finish off Fly. Just Trace getting a little ahead of himself.
So KT just showed you exactly what they can and should do and then what they shouldn't do. They took the turret, they poked out the mid lane and then took the turret. That was great.
Kuzan goes over the wall, finds Fly, chains him up, should not be able to get the skill.
X-Drinker.
yeah, that is going to be the shield coming through. So not enough burst quite just yet. Of course, Rod of Age is coming in. The only other AP that he's got is that Doran's Ring, so not going to be that heavy burst LeBlanc that he wants to be quite just yet. Going to take a little bit more time before he can work through that Hex Drinker, which is now a Maul of Malmortius.
Yep, which is a nice rush. You don't need to rush the Mana Moon. You don't need to worry about your Mirror Mana timing because you're more about the spells and the auto attacks at this stage of the game. But it's coming back to KT. Really nice siege, double AD pushing. They need to push at this timer before Rammus has 500 armor that even Trundle couldn't hope to go through. They don't even have a Trundle. But the big thing is they follow that up with walking into the jungle as Graves Varus. And Graves can certainly tussle in the jungle with his dash, but Varus, excellent champion with a strong front line or in the open where he can poke from out of range. In all those close corridors, got caught off. There was no reason for them to be there. There was no massive objective for them to get. Also, Trace is always going to be faster to rotate than Someday because Powerball's faster than Whimsy. Not many things are, but Powerball's certainly there. That was the mistake. So keep fighting around turrets. Send Graves into lanes and push turrets down while you have the time. Because if you don't, you're going to miss a really big target window.
You can see though Trace trying to defend this tower, pops the ultimate, but they're just going to go ahead and dive in. He's one hit away from that stun. He comes through. They should be able to finish him off as the tower falls as well. Yeah, nowhere for him to go. He gets popped. So that's going to be Trace and that bottom tier 1 going down. Rift Herald here for Winged. And this could just be KT going over to the Dragon since they know that this Italy is on the top side of the map.
I mean, KT will keep doing these proactive 5-man groupings. You're never going to see Someday teleport gank. He's going to teleport group and push down turrets because that's all this comp can do, and it's on a timer because of the Rammus armor stack. But it looks like they're going to take a pretty heavy penalty. It's another situation where Rift Herald is picked up, outer turret goes down, so does inner turret.
Yeah, I like this by JinAir. Making great moves and taking that second tower. You can see this one on the bot side. He's going to get pressured out a little bit, but it's just a Lulu. Not going to be able to do too much. It's down to about half HP, but it will be standing at the end of the day.
Kuzan has been forced into effectively a tank LeBlanc build. Now, is getting ability power with his purchases, but coming back to what I was saying earlier, Abyssal Scepter, great to itemize into, but especially with the nerfs, you can't just rush Zonias against AD dealers. So got the Rod of Ages first, but then into Zonias, which is expensive. You are paying a lot for the stasis active and the armor that you get from it, and the damage is going to be much lower than every other LeBlanc build we've seen this season. So important to remember that with 3 squishies, LeBlanc's still going to burst. That's all she does as a champion. But the burst is going to be lower than if she was allowed to go a more high damage build.
Yep. So it'll take a bit longer for Kuzan to come online. See though, that Rod of Ages is just being allowed to stack up. He does have the 1 kill on the side of JinAir. Decent spot. We'll have to see just how scary this very tanky LeBlanc will be as we get later into the game. Takes that piercing arrow and it's a triple push into that mid lane onto the tier 2. Alistar is roaming up, but the turn's already down to about half HP. Trace not able to find any kind of entrance, and now this is Johnny showing up. Jay, does he want to go in? Not quite just yet. You can see this could be a tower going down to the top side of the map as well. Looks like they're just going to trade bot for top.
Need to trade better than that with triple AD against Rammus. So they haven't got this top answering turret just yet. Rammus won't be able to go there, but they need to keep the pressure on mid and at least pick up the dragon on the backside. The fact that KT, with the map pressure they had, weren't able to pick up a dragon in the first 10 minutes is a testament to JinAir trading up in situations where, given the fact that they had no lane pressure, they should be in no way competitive in gold. There should be a significant gold advantage based on what we saw in the first 8 to 10 minutes, but instead, it's all even.
Yeah, they probably should have taken the dragon after they got that bottom tier 1 tower. You can see the stat right there. JinAir wins 73.3% of the time, and KT only 1/3 of the time did they come out with a victory after losing that first dragon. So definitely working in favor of JinAir here.
If we return to your point, you talked about how they took the bottom tower. What happened was JinAir were on the top lane turret while KT started the dragon. They realized they'd be behind in the trade if they didn't take the turret straight away, and then they ended up losing the Rift Herald and an inner turret, so they just got out-traded. It's a bit reminiscent of RNG trying to answer trades over at IEM and just losing extra objectives. Unfortunately for KT, they don't have any wiggle room in this comp. The only wiggle room they could have gotten was some sort of dragon snowball to complement their sieging comp. Without that as a backup, the fact that they're actually behind in gold, barring some late game team fight, it's going to be very difficult for KT. It's going to require some significant outplays because they're a bit like Kongdoo Monster, missing their timing window early in this game.
Yep. There is outplay potential for any teams. It is these two right here. Of course, our second and third place teams at the moment, only separated, as you said before, by that 1 game.
It's fair. Rock Tigers don't need outplay potential.
Yeah. They just always outplay.
Well, they're always ahead.
Yeah.
Except that one time, but then they out.
And then they still came back. That was a very scary start of the game for Rocks.
What, the part where they gave 2 kills at level 1?
Let's just face check the Braum. But
2 kills over the Fury on debut.
yeah,
And it didn't matter.
and it didn't do anything. So though JinAir trying to hold on to this mid tier 2 tower, it's being chunked down below half HP now. Just 300 gold separating the teams. Going to have an explosive fight breaking out any minute now. Of course, Dragon is not going to be a point of contention for quite some time, so it's really just going to be these tower takes. Arrow takes a bit of a big javelin to the face, though, in the backside of that fight. And now it's going to be Score having to dash away. Takes about half of his HP and burst from Kuzan, who's starting to come online. Has that needlessly large rod and the Seeker's Arm Guard for that little bit of, not sustainability, but mitigation from damage from this lineup of KT. So he's going to be able to start making plays and making moves to help get JinAir further ahead.
Some itemization will come in to deal with the fact that the moment they group up as 4, we expect the Arrow to be channeled. Already 1 QSS onto Arrow as first item. That's going to be awkward, Arrow onto Arrow, but that's for you to deal with.
Yeah.
Double Maw will be completed. It's not quite the cleanse effect, but it is going to be effective stats. So they still want to set up and poke. That's why they had a pink ward behind them to stop any flanks from Rammus. They need to be so careful with these flanks. Score
Kuzan
through the Maw.
Damage.
That was the low damage Kuzan build.
Yeah.
Still doing all right.
Still doing quite well. Score, of course, does not have that completed Maw of Mount Mortias quite just yet. Striker Shield didn't get popped, but you can see Kuzan is starting to do an immense amount of damage, even with this build.
Now, this build has ability power, but the big thing it's missing is mana regen and cooldown reduction specifically. So LeBlanc's second, third rotation might not happen in fights, but as long as you're building ability power, you're still going to have a very nice first rotation of spells.
Yeah, and I mean, most members of KT are fairly squishy. So that first rotation of spells, especially into somebody like Arrow, could just be enough to go ahead and finish them off. The MR coming through for him right now is that Quicksilver Sash.
Arrow's had his Hurricane delayed by having to spend 1250 gold on the QSS, so team fighting. Actually, second to the Hurricane behind an Ash, which is all good.
12 or 1350.
I forget. It was 1250 at one point. It's probably more now.
I think it might be 13. It's not too much of a difference.
It's still a recurve below plus worth of gold you wished you were spending on offensive stats.
Very much so. See though, KT yet again just keep revisiting this mid lane, trying to push that wave into JinAir, but wave clear is here.
Rammus has long nail.
Yes, he does, and that is a very bad thing for KT Rolster.
Have a lot of health behind it. Balmy Cinder in inventory means probably Sunfire next to try and match the wave clear from Lulu.
More than likely. Should be able to finish that up, and I mean, you know, that's a great little spike there for Rammus. Get the Sunfire cape, be able to just sit in the middle of everybody, popping your ultimate, just burning them down steadily while returning damage to them with Thorn Mount.
You can see KT's conundrum is that they're basically pushing waves into their enemy, and this is an enemy that had no pressure in the laning phase, fell behind early, Score was able to do some counter jungle, but now we're at the phase of the game where KT and JinAir are swapping farm and KT's comp falls off compared to JinAir's. So that lets you know that KT need to make a decisive move, but do they have the tools to do so?
Oh, well, that's going to be the decisive move that JinAir tried to make. Janet Crystal Arrow not going to land, goes straight through everybody, so have to wait for that to come off cooldown. This could be KT maybe posturing up to try for their first dragon of the game, as it is spawning in 30 seconds, and that arrow will not be available by that time.
Second dragon is a great one for the comp that KT have. All their members can make a lot of value. Outside of Braum can apply that debuff to turrets and get the burn going. But first dragon, look, it's necessary stats, but not a massive win. KT should have honestly finished that first dragon. This should be a second dragon take for KT. So the fact that they missed that window again. We've spoken a lot about windows today between the two siege comps we've seen, and windows staying gaping open as far as we can see.
Dragon warded up by both sides. Skull Crab will be taken by KT, and it has since spawned. Want to see who is going to make a move for it first. Sunday's teleport is available, of course. Trace waiting in the fountain for those home guard buffs, so he can TP in from behind. That's a very good ward right there if KT comes down to this dragon pit where he can flank from behind.
Arrows at a 1 minute cooldown, so already available again.
Yep, the dragon's been started. KT is down here. This should be the TP coming in. He's actually going to go to the tri-brush. We'll have to see how this engage is going to come about. Home guard's coming in. Who can he get for a taunt? Big pulverized by Che, finds 4 members, followed up by the Crystal Arrow. Will be the second dragon going over to JinAir GreenWings. But Trace in the front line just going to get caught up here. Kuzan goes in deep, however, and just takes out a Johnny. And that's going to be Pilot following up and getting Someday. Fly goes down as well. Arrow on the run, looks like he will be able to get out with his life, but it's just Arrow and Score, and just like that, second dragon and 3 kills for JinAir GreenWings.
I mean, it just demonstrated on screen how poor a comp like KT's is at fighting around Dragon, even though Trace went for the world's most defensive teleport play.
They're gonna go for a Baron here.
They're gonna try it. Graves probably going to be wise to it, but even though Trace had to be so defensive in his teleport, they still couldn't fight. They still lost the dragon. Baron's falling low. This is very risky, but KT have no idea.
And Someday does have a teleport available. He spawns in 10 seconds, but it looks like it's going to be too late as they're just burning right through this, and suddenly KT kind of realize the error of their ways as Baron goes down as well for JinAir, who now have a pretty significant gold lead.
So Trace goes for the world's most defensive teleport, but in the front line, he can take all 3 AD auto attackers damage and still live. And then Kuzan, we mentioned that he didn't have multiple rotations of spells, but the first one was pretty damn effective.
Yeah, that was a massacre for JinAir. Really great play by Che as well, that opening pulverize, finding, I think it was 4, it might have been 3 members of KT, just locking them down, and then everybody just pouring out damage onto Trace, but he can take it and he can return it as well.
Even though it wasn't the clean initiation JinAir won, they won the fight landslide, and it only gets better for JinAir as the armor items pile onto Trace.
Yeah, what more could you want for taking towers than second dragon buff and Baron empowered minions? You see Trace trying to get in here, trying to get that taunt. Kuzan goes in the back, takes Score down to half HP.
But Trace, honestly, his whole role is to walk up, probably take turret aggro, but zone all these AD carries away. And even though they have good wave clear, none of it can get in range of the waves if Trace just body blocks under a turret.
Yeah, and just like that, wave crashing in the bot side of the map, JinAir are just going to rotate straight down here and take their third outer turret away from KT. Nothing but inhibitor tower is now standing for KT's base. JinAir going off on a tear after that one win to the Dragon fight.
I mean, KT just can't do anything. Their comp isn't built to deal with the situations that have been posed of them. The only thing they could have done was start the Dragon stacking early, but this still could have been the result, so you can't just point your fist and shake it at that one thing. JinAir have played the map so well after having that really rough early game.
Quite true. You can see just Trace still being so impactful in these fights, even though he's being oppressed by Someday in lane, still able to have an impact.
Rammus is oppressed by everyone in lane.
That's very true.
He literally has no ranged abilities.
He has no good pick for his lane, but he's just so damn good the later the game goes.
He struggles to level 6, pops the ultimate, backs, powers back into lane, pops the ultimate, backs, and then hopes it's teamfight time.
Well, fortunately for JinAir, schedules did jive up for Trace to have some success on this Rammus. And right now it's 3 members, 100% kill participation. Just gonna be Pilot and Shay, who have not gotten all of them, but they're only missing out on 1, so 75% is still pretty damn good.
Trundle last pick would have given them split push, would have given them shred on the Rammus. Lulu honestly gives them nothing.
The arrow coming out, Kuzan goes on to score, locks him down with the chain, has to jump out though as he eats that ultimate. Trace is getting locked up, the chains come through, will lock up the L-Star as well. He flashes it, gets the headbutt, pulverized, knocks back, score. He goes down, and now they're all on to Arrow. Kuzan throwing just that clone forward. Looks like he's gonna go ahead and kill that one. They should be able to finish off this inhibitor and back. Arrow does live, score goes down, but JinAir, an inhibitor take at 28.5 minutes. Good stuff coming out for them, continuously pressing this advantage for themselves.
And Trace just walks up, he can take 3 to 4 people's focus fires. No one should be able to do this, but that is the reality of Rammus top, a pick that's only come through as everyone's been stacking 80 damage dealers to take turrets. It's been a turret-taking year, and one of the reasons that Someday, who of course was the person who brought in the Rammus, and now Trace is emulating, he was just able to control the space of multiple high damage dealers because they just tickle the Rammus.
Yeah. And he is just getting so tanky. Ninja Tabby, Spectre's Cowl, Thorn Mail, Sunfire Cape, Warden's Mail, and now a Giant's Belt. So it looks like we will see a Randuin's Omen coming out for him. So not only will he just zip on top of you and taunt you, you cannot possibly run away from this guy because he's just going to slow your ass so much.
The draft decision for KT was a peculiar one, but I can follow the logic. You think, okay, Trundle's obvious. Everyone, when they see Rammus, wants to play Trundle, right? If you have the chance to. And the laning matchup is fine. But I think the issue that KT saw was that if they had the Trundle, Trundle doesn't really out-pressure Rammus because he can't push lanes just like Rammus can't, so you're just trading farm. And maybe there was that game where Wind got going in the early game and Nidalee took it over. In this game, they had all the lane pressure but did nothing with it, so might as well go for the Trundle if you're not willing to actually commit on taking things with the lane pressure advantage you picked into.
Speaking of taking things, JinAir is making a return to the base of KT, looking to take this second inhibitor tower, and with good timing, because the third dragon of the game is spawning in 10 seconds as well, so they can just pressure up, maybe get this tower, and then just back off and take another dragon.
Trace doesn't take damage from turrets, doesn't take damage from triple AD.
God, just wait till they get the 4 dragon buffs.
It feels like Trace is basically a bannered up, a banner of command minion that doesn't take magic damage, but it's physical damage in this case, which is very useful.
Jay goes in, gets a double knock-up, the tower goes down, a lot of pressure alleviated there. Johnny takes a lot of damage as well as Kuzan has jumped in. A couple people are low on JinAir, however. Let's see how long they want to stick around. Those super minions are crashing in on the mid lane. Looks like they're going to go ahead and commit onto this inhibitor. In the bot side, you have that heal speed up, that steroid for Pilot to try to work through it. But KT doing the best they can to hold on to this one. Wing gets grabbed up, has to pop the Zonius to stay alive. Meanwhile, Kuzan straight to the back line, takes out Score. That is going to be the Fate's Call, throwing Johnny to the Wolves. He's just going to go down. The Wild Growth not going to be enough. Wing finishes him off. Someday has to flash out, but it does not even matter. He goes down. Finally, Trace does fall. Arrow able to get that kill, but at what cost? They lose 3 members and their second inhibitor.
There's no way to engage. Winged already had the Zonius, so it's able to pop that. Dropped aggro, they picked up a kill. Okay, Trace eventually dies, but they get the inhibitor. Gonna get the blue buff on the backside. They can pick up a 3rd dragon, and KT just went for an initiation because they had to do something, because they've watched objective after objective be taken in front of them and felt helpless because their comp doesn't give them any options to engage.
Yeah, and JinAir just completely in control of this game. Third dragon taken. Baron's wanting 30 seconds. Let's take a look at this replay here.
Well, this is after multiple rotations of auto attacks onto this turret. They finally get a target that doesn't have QSS, but it doesn't matter as Kuzan is making me a believer of the build. He got through the laning phase against Varus. He weathered the storm, and even though ults miss and the members are very, very low, it doesn't matter because JinAir's comp does what it was picked to do, and KT's doesn't.
Yeah, I think at that point you just surrender the inhibitor. Don't throw a Johnny in for them to just pick him apart.
No, you just surrender.
Yeah, just
surrender the game.
Just be done with it. Open mid, even though we can surrender. As of
It's the Korean way.
13 minutes ago.
Open mid.
Yep. But we can see now Baron has respawned. 2 waves of super creeps in the mid and the bot lanes crashing forward. This should just be an easy Baron take for JinAir if they decide to pick it up.
So these teams are battling for second. That's the big prize. Whichever team wins this series will be overall second to the Rocks Tigers. A distant second, because they would be 3 losses to the 0 of the Rocks Tigers. But it's games like this against the other top teams. Oh, his Che might be caught.
Yeah, there's going to be cuss blows coming out, but he goes ahead, pops his ultimate, goes in, knocks up Score. Takes a lot of damage, though. They're going to lock him in with the Baron's ultimate as well. Where can Che go? So that's Flash available. Kuzan in the thick of the fight, bounces back. He does get arrow, but he goes down as well. Che goes back in, double pop-up. It's going to be Wild Growth coming out here, trying to just keep some members of KT alive, but it's not doing anything. The slows from the Frost arrows coming out, just locking KT in, and they all go down. And just like that, JinAir, they say, we don't need a second Baron. We're just going to run it straight into your faces and take you down.
KT try to fight in a jungle again with a comp that can't do it. And just to finish my point, as JinAir are going to win this game, you think about the fact this is for second. KT, very close second, in second place coming into this series. This is not a comp the Rocks Tigers would ever win. They always pick initiation. They always pick things that are reliable. You don't have to sit there and wonder what a teamfight win looks like for Rocks Tigers because everyone's an initiator. Why do KT pick these comps that, okay, could run away with the game, but if one of the many factors that is required to get a triple AD carry rolling falls apart, so does the game. JinAir picked the reliable comp, and even though it's a rough early game, they win comfortably.
Yep, really strong stuff here from JinAir. It was looking a little bit rough early on when KT had control of the lanes, but it just fell apart and they weren't able to make any moves off of that lead. And it started off slowly, but JinAir just took off with that win in the end.
They picked for control, they got control, and then just seemed a bit puzzled as to what to do with it. Eventually the game got to the point where 2 armor items, 3 armor items come through, and KT is committing to dragon fights, jungle fights with the triple AD comp that has no frontline and punished accordingly.
Yeah, get Trace on that Rammus, it just becomes nearly unkillable, only going down, I believe, once in that entire game.
Well, if he was dying, so was multiple objectives and multiple members from KT.
Exactly. And it was just great cleanup by JinAir, closing out that game. Really convincing stuff, and you have to wonder, is this going to be a 2-0, or will KT be able to make this a 3-part series?
This needs to be a very different draft from KT. They had an idea, maybe it was working in scrims, but on the bigger stage, on the champion stage, it left a lot to be desired.
Absolutely. Well, a lot of questions to be asked. We'll see if KT is able to fix their draft and find a win. Take us to 3 games. We'll be right back with Game 2.